Zuri was a kind-hearted girl, full of warmth and kindness, but her life was far from easy. She was the only daughter of a noblewoman, Queen Abeni, who had mysteriously passed away when Zuri was just a child. Her father, Chief Quame, had been heartbroken, but soon remarried, bringing a new woman into their home, Nana. From the moment Nana stepped into their lives, things began to change. She was not a loving stepmother. Instead, she was selfish, jealous, and full of greed. She only cared about her own daughter, Adoma, a vain and spoiled girl who had never known hardship. At first, Zuri had hoped to find a mother's love in Nana, but she quickly realized that would never happen. Nana only had love for Adoma, treating her like a princess while Zuri became invisible in her own home. If Adoma wanted new clothes, Nana bought her the finest silk and gold-threaded fabrics. If she wanted sweets, the best cooks in the village prepared her meals. But for Zuri, there was nothing. She wore old, faded dresses, ate scraps from their table, and was often reminded that she did not belong. Zuri's father, Chief Quame, was the only one who protected her. Though he was not always at home, when he was, he made sure Zuri was treated fairly. But fate had other plans. One evening, Chief Quame fell mysteriously ill. His sickness came suddenly, and within days, he was gone. The house that had once been filled with his deep laughter now felt cold and empty. With his passing, Nana took complete control. Any kindness she had pretended to show Zuri disappeared, and her true nature was revealed. Now Zuri was nothing more than a servant in her own home. She was given the hardest chores, made to cook and clean, and was never allowed to rest, while Adoma spent her days admiring herself in the mirror and playing with her friends. Zuri was scrubbing floors and washing clothes by the river. If she ever complained, Nana would remind her, "You are lucky to even have a roof over your head." Adoma joined in the cruelty, laughing at Zuri and treating her like she was beneath her. But despite everything, Zuri never lost her kindness. She never let bitterness take root in her heart. She often found comfort in the stories of the elders in the village, who spoke of justice, destiny, and the way the world always balanced itself in the end. She held on to hope, even when it felt like she had nothing else. One night, as Zuri was finishing her chores, an old village elder approached her in secret. His wrinkled hands held out a small wooden pendant. "This belonged to your mother," he whispered. "It holds a great secret. One day, you will understand its power." Before she could ask any questions, the old man disappeared into the night. Zuri held the pendant tightly, feeling a strange warmth in her hands. For the first time in years, she felt something stir inside her, something that whispered that her story was far from over. The day Chief Quame died, Zuri's life changed forever. His passing was sudden, and before Zuri could even understand what had happened, everything was taken from her. The home that was once filled with her father's warmth now felt cold and unwelcoming. Nana, who had always been distant, no longer hid her true feelings. She took control of everything: her father's wealth, the house, and most painfully, Zuri's life. From that moment, Zuri was no longer treated as a daughter of the household. She became nothing more than a servant. Every morning before the sun rose, Nana would shake her awake and order her to start the day's work. She had to sweep the floors, fetch water from the river, and prepare food for Nana and Adoma. While Adoma sat comfortably, eating delicious meals, Zuri had to wait until everyone was done, only allowed to eat whatever scraps were left. When new fabrics arrived from the market, Nana made sure Adoma got the finest ones, dressing her in bright colors and golden jewelry. Zuri, on the other hand, was given old torn clothes that barely fit. If she dared to complain, Nana's sharp voice would cut through the air. "You should be grateful I even let you stay here," she would say. "No one else would want you." Adoma took pleasure in making Zuri's life even harder. She would purposely spill food or throw her clothes on the floor, knowing Zuri would be forced to clean up after her. Sometimes she would invite her friends over just so they could laugh at Zuri, calling her names and mocking her ragged appearance. If Zuri tried to defend herself, Nana would always take Adoma's side. "You are worthless," Nana would say. "No one will ever love you." The words hurt more than any of the work Zuri was forced to do. She missed her father terribly, knowing that if he were still alive, he would have never let this happen. But no matter how much she cried at night, nothing changed. Every day was the same: work, insults, hunger, and loneliness. Yet even in the darkest moments, Zuri refused to let her spirit break. Deep inside, she still held on to the hope that one day her life would change. Late one night, after a long day of endless chores, Zuri sat alone outside the small hut where she slept. The moon shone brightly in the sky, casting a silver glow over the quiet village. The air was cool, and the only sounds were the distant croaking of frogs and the rustling of leaves in the gentle breeze. She hugged her knees to her chest, feeling the weight of her loneliness pressing down on her. Just as she was about to go inside, she noticed a shadow moving near the trees. At first, fear gripped her, but then she saw the figure step forward into the moonlight. It was an old village elder, a man with a face full of deep lines, as if he carried the wisdom of many lifetimes. His eyes, though tired, held kindness as they rested on her. "Zuri," he said in a low, gentle voice, "I have something for you." She hesitated, but then slowly stepped forward. The elder reached into the folds of his robe and pulled out a small wooden pendant. It was simple, but beautifully carved, with strange patterns etched into its surface. The moment he placed it in her palm, a strange warmth spread through her fingers, and for a brief second, she thought she saw a faint glow. "This belonged to your mother," the elder said. His voice was filled with something that sounded like both sadness and hope. "It carries a great secret." Zuri's heart raced. "My mother," she whispered. She barely remembered her mother, only soft memories that felt more like dreams. No one ever spoke about her, and Nana had made it clear that she was not to ask questions. The elder nodded. "One day, you will understand its meaning. When the time is right, the truth will reveal itself." Before Zuri could ask anything more, the old man turned and walked away, disappearing into the night as silently as he had come. She stood there for a long time, staring at the pendant in her hand. She didn't know what secret it held, but for the first time in a long while, she felt something stir deep inside her, something that whispered that her story was far from over. News spread quickly through the village like the wind before a storm. King Jali was searching for a bride, but this was no ordinary search. The king had made it clear that he was not looking for just a beautiful woman. He wanted a queen of true worth, someone with wisdom, kindness, and strength in her heart. He would set challenges to test those who wished to marry him, and only the one who proved herself worthy would become his queen. The moment Nana and Adoma heard this, their eyes lit up with greed and excitement. To Nana, this was a golden opportunity. If Adoma married the king, they would never have to worry about anything again. Power, wealth, and respect would all be theirs. Adoma, always obsessed with her own beauty, was convinced that she would be chosen without question. "What man could resist me?" she boasted, twirling in front of the mirror. "I will be the most beautiful queen this village has ever seen." Nana wasted no time in making preparations. She bought the finest clothes and golden jewelry for Adoma, making sure she looked more dazzling than anyone else. She also used her influence to spread whispers in the village, telling everyone that Adoma was the perfect choice for the king. "Who else but my daughter deserves to be queen?" she would say proudly. "She comes from a noble house and is as beautiful as the morning sun." But while Nana and Adoma were filled with confidence, others in the village whispered among themselves. Everyone knew Adoma's heart was not as beautiful as her face. She was spoiled, unkind, and full of pride. Would the king truly choose someone like her? Zuri, watching from the shadows, felt no excitement at all. She knew there was no place for someone like her in this competition. She was not dressed in fine clothes, nor did she have anyone to support her. She was just a servant in her own home, forgotten and unseen. And yet, as she touched the wooden pendant around her neck, she felt a strange feeling deep inside her. A quiet voice in her heart told her that her story was not over yet. The village was buzzing with excitement over the king's search for a queen when an unexpected visitor arrived. Mama Dede, the oldest and wisest woman in the land, had come to share a prophecy. She was known throughout the region for her powerful visions, and whenever she spoke, people listened. Dressed in flowing robes with beads around her neck, she carried the presence of someone who had seen many lifetimes. The villagers gathered in the marketplace, eager to hear what she had to say. She stood tall in the center, her deep, knowing eyes scanning the crowd. Then, in a voice both strong and mysterious, she spoke. "A forgotten daughter will rise from the ashes," she declared, "and the one who oppressed her shall lose all she cherishes." A hush fell over the crowd. People glanced at one another, whispering in confusion. Who was this forgotten daughter? And who was the one that would lose everything? Nana, who had been standing proudly beside Adoma, let out a loud laugh. "These old women always speak in riddles," she scoffed, waving her hand dismissively. "What nonsense! The only one rising in this village is my daughter Adoma, when she becomes queen." Adoma smirked, tossing her hair as if the prophecy did not concern her at all. But some villagers did not laugh. Some of them looked toward Zuri, who stood quietly at the back of the crowd, unnoticed as always. A few elders exchanged knowing glances, but no one spoke. Zuri, however, felt a strange shiver run down her spine. The words of the prophecy echoed in her heart, stirring something deep within her. She did not fully understand, but somehow she knew that the prophecy was important. And though Nana laughed now, she would soon realize that fate had a way of revealing the truth. Zuri had spent years being treated like a servant, but deep inside, she knew she was meant for more. The prophecy had awakened something in her, a quiet but powerful feeling that her life was about to change. She could no longer sit back and accept the cruelty of Nana and Adoma. She had to find her own path. One night, after finishing all her chores, Zuri slipped out of the house and made her way to the edge of the village, where Mama Didi lived. The old woman was waiting for her, as if she had known Zuri would come. Without a word, she led Zuri inside her small hut, where the air smelled of herbs and burning incense. "You have been lost for too long, child," Mama Didi said, studying her closely. "It is time for you to learn who you truly are." Over the next few weeks, Zuri returned to Mama Didi in secret. Each night she learned something new: how to read the stars, how to heal with herbs, and how to listen to the whispers of the wind. The old woman told her stories of powerful women who had come before her, women who had shaped the destiny of the land. And then, one night, Mama Dede told her something that changed everything. "Your mother, Queen Abini, was not just a noblewoman," she revealed. "She was a great healer, one of the most powerful our village has ever known, and her gift lives within you." Zuri's heart pounded. She had always felt different, but she had never understood why. Now, it all made sense. Her mother's blood flowed through her veins, and she had inherited her gifts. As she absorbed this truth, the wooden pendant around her neck suddenly grew warm. Zuri gasped as it began to glow softly, pulsing with a light that seemed to come from within. Mama Didi watched with a knowing smile. "The time is near," she said. "You are stronger than you know, Zuri. And soon the world will see it too." From that night on, Zuri was no longer just a servant girl. She was a daughter of destiny, and she was ready to claim her place in the world. The day had finally come for the king to choose his future queen. King Jali, wise and fair, decided that he would not simply pick the most beautiful woman. Instead, he would set 3 difficult trials to test the heart, mind, and true nature of the women who wished to become his bride. Only one woman would prove herself worthy. The first test was the test of kindness. The king disguised himself as a poor old beggar and sat at the entrance of the village, dressed in tattered clothes, his face hidden beneath a hood. He waited for the women to approach, hoping to see who would offer him help. Many women passed by, some with pitying glances, others completely ignoring him. But only a few, including Adoma and Nana, offered him a little food or spare change, thinking it would be enough to win the king's favor. But then Zuri came. She had been following the trials from a distance, but something in her heart urged her to step forward. She saw the beggar sitting alone, hungry and cold, and she approached him without hesitation. With a gentle smile, Zuri offered him a warm cloth to cover his shoulders and shared the last of her bread with him. She didn't expect anything in return. She simply wanted to help. The beggar, who was secretly the king, smiled warmly at Zuri, seeing the true kindness in her heart. She had passed the first test with ease. Next came the test of wisdom. The women gathered at the king's palace, where King Jali posed a riddle that only the wisest could solve. "I speak without a mouth and hear without ears. I have no body, but I come alive with wind. What am I?" Adoma, who had been relying on her beauty and charm, struggled to understand the riddle. She guessed everything from the sun to the clouds, but nothing was correct. Nana, too, made wild guesses. growing frustrated with each wrong answer. Then it was Zuri's turn. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and listened carefully to the words. She thought about the world around her, the wind, the sounds of the village, the quiet moments she spent in nature. And then, with a soft smile, she answered. An echo. The king's eyes sparkled with admiration as he nodded in approval. Zuri had passed the second test. Finally, the most challenging test of all, the test of true bloodline. The king revealed a mystical item, a glowing stone that could reveal the true bloodline of the women before him. Each woman was asked to place her hand upon the stone, and it would glow to reveal if she was of royal descent. Nana stepped forward confidently, certain that the stone would glow brightly for her. But as her hand touched the stone, it remained dark and still. She gasped, her heart sinking. But she quickly hid her disappointment behind a smile. Adoma, too, placed her hand upon the stone, but nothing happened. She couldn't understand it. She had always been told she was the one who would rule. Finally, Zuri stepped forward. As her hand brushed the stone, it began to glow with a bright, warm light. The entire room fell silent as the light grew stronger, revealing the truth to everyone present. Zuri was not just a servant, she was the true heir to the throne, the daughter of the late Queen Ebene. The king's face broke into a smile, and the crowd erupted in astonishment. Zuri had passed all 3 tests, showing not just beauty or strength, but the true qualities of a queen. It was clear to everyone that she was the rightful one to stand beside King Jali. As the trials continued, Nana and Adoma's confidence began to falter. The first test, the test of kindness, revealed Adoma's true nature. When she saw the old beggar sitting alone at the village gate, she sneered at him. Instead of offering him help, she laughed and mocked him, calling him a filthy beggar who didn't deserve her attention. The beggar, who was secretly King Jali, looked at her with disappointment in his eyes. He had been hoping to see kindness, but all he saw was cruelty. Adoma failed the first test miserably, her arrogance and lack of compassion clear to everyone who witnessed it. Next came the test of wisdom. This was where Adoma thought she could rely on her charm and beauty. As the king asked the riddle, Adoma became nervous, unable to solve it. But instead of admitting her failure, she tried to cheat. She quickly turned to one of the other women nearby, hoping to steal their answer. However, the king had seen her actions and raised an eyebrow. With a calm voice, he exposed her dishonesty. The crowd gasped, and Adoma's face turned bright red. She had been caught, and her reputation was now in tatters. Nana, standing off to the side, could do nothing but watch in horror as her daughter was humiliated. The final test, the test of true bloodline, was the most important. Nana stepped forward with great confidence, certain that the glowing stone would reveal her as the true queen. She placed her hand upon it, waiting for the stone to shine brightly. But to her shock, the stone remained dark and lifeless. A heavy silence filled the room as the truth sank in. Nana was not the rightful queen, and she had no royal blood in her veins. Then it was Zuri's turn. She stepped forward, her heart racing. She had no idea what to expect, but she knew one thing for sure. She was ready. As her hand touched the stone, the pendant around her neck began to glow with a soft, warm light. The light grew brighter and brighter until it shone like the sun, filling the room with its radiance. The stone responded to the pendant, recognizing Zuri's true bloodline. It was a moment of awe for everyone present. The king's face lit up with joy, and he turned to the crowd, his voice full of reverence. "Zuri," he announced, "you are the rightful heir to the throne. You are the daughter of Queen Ebene." The crowd erupted in shock and amazement. Nana and Adoma stood frozen, unable to comprehend what had just happened. The daughter they had treated as nothing more than a servant was revealed to be the true queen. The realization hit them like a thunderbolt. Everything they had hoped for, everything they had taken for granted, was slipping away. Zuri stood tall, her heart filled with a quiet strength that she had discovered within herself. The pendant around her neck continued to glow brightly, a symbol of her true identity and the power she now held. Nana and Adoma's downfall had begun, and nothing could stop the wave of justice that was about to sweep over them. The moment the truth was revealed, the air in the room seemed to freeze. Nana stood there, her eyes wide in disbelief, her mouth hanging open as she struggled to comprehend what had just happened. The pendant around Zuri's neck, glowing brightly, was the final proof that Zuri was the rightful heir to the throne, something Nana had stolen from her for years. Nana had always believed she could hold on to the power she had taken from Zuri's mother, but now, all of it was slipping through her fingers. The reality of the situation hit her hard. She had been living a lie, and now the truth was exposed for everyone to see. Nana let out a scream of rage and shock. "No!" she cried out, her voice trembling with fear. "This can't be. I am the queen. It's supposed to be me." But her protests were ignored as the king stepped forward with authority. King Jali, who had been watching everything unfold with a mixture of awe and sadness, now addressed the crowd. His voice was firm, and his words carried the weight of the law. "Zuri is the true queen, the rightful heir to the throne. She is the daughter of Queen Ebene, and I hereby declare her my queen." As soon as the king spoke these words, everything changed. Nana's lavish home, the wealth she had gained through deceit, and the land she had claimed as her own were seized. The king ordered that all of Nana's properties be returned to the people, and soon enough her riches were stripped away. Nana, who had once lived in luxury and commanded respect, was now left with nothing. Her power was gone, and all her deceitful schemes had crumbled. Adoma, once proud and full of arrogance, stood beside her mother in stunned silence. She had always thought she was destined for greatness, but now she too felt the crushing weight of their downfall. In an instant, she was no longer the pampered daughter of a rich woman. With their wealth taken away, she was reduced to nothing more than a beggar. She had no choice but to join the others who had once been beneath her, the villagers who had quietly watched her haughty behavior. The people of the village, once afraid of Nana's wrath, now saw her as a broken woman, stripped of her former power. Zuri, on the other hand, stood tall, her heart steady as she looked upon the scene. She had suffered so much, but now justice had been served. Zuri had not sought revenge. Instead, she had let the truth come to light, and it was the truth that had brought everything back into balance. As Nana and Adoma were left with nothing, Zuri's path forward became clear. She was not only the true queen, but she was also a queen who would rule with kindness, wisdom, and strength. The people, who had once seen her as a servant, now looked at her with admiration and respect. And while Nana and Adoma had lost everything, Zuri had gained the love and loyalty of her people. In that moment, Zuri realized that justice had been done, but mercy was the true strength that she had within her. As Nana stood in the shadow of her own downfall, she realized just how much she had lost. The life she had carefully built, the wealth she had stolen, and the power she had once held, all of it was slipping away. Desperation crept into her heart, and she fell to her knees before Zuri, the true queen. "Please," she begged, her voice trembling. "Please forgive me. I know I've done terrible things, but I am nothing now. Please, don't take everything from me." Her once proud face was now filled with fear and regret, and for the first time, she saw the full extent of the damage she had caused. The villagers gathered around, watching in silence. This was the moment of truth. Would Zuri, with all her power and rightful claim to the throne, choose revenge and make Nana suffer as she had made Zuri suffer all those years? Or would she show mercy and offer a chance for redemption? The entire village held its breath, waiting for Zuri's decision. Zuri stood still, her heart heavy with the weight of the choice before her. She could see the fear in Nana's eyes, the same fear she had seen in her own eyes many times before when Nana had treated her so cruelly. But Zuri had learned so much during her journey. She had learned that true strength was not in punishing others, but in showing mercy, even when it was not deserved. With a deep breath, Zuri looked at her stepmother and her spoiled daughter, Adoma, who stood quietly beside her, her head lowered in shame. Zuri made her decision. "Nana," she said, her voice calm but firm, "you and Adoma will not be cast out. You will stay in the village, but you will live as humble workers, just like anyone else. I will not punish you. But you must work for your food, your shelter, and your place in this village. You will learn what it truly means to live with dignity." The villagers gasped, some in shock and others in admiration. They had expected a different decision, one driven by anger and revenge, but Zuri's choice was one of compassion and wisdom. She had chosen to break the cycle of hatred and cruelty, showing that she was not just a queen by birth, but a queen by heart. As Nana and Adoma began their new lives as humble workers, Zuri ascended to the throne with grace. She ruled the village with fairness and kindness, and under her leadership, peace and prosperity flourished. Her wisdom brought prosperity to the land, and the villagers respected her not only for her royal blood, but for her character. The prophecy that had once seemed so mysterious was now fully realized. A forgotten daughter will rise from the ashes, and the one who oppressed her shall lose all she cherishes. Nana had lost everything, but Zuri had gained everything, including the love and respect of her people. In the end, the story of Zuri taught a powerful lesson. No matter how dark the path may seem, the truth always has a way of rising to the surface. Zuri's journey was one of pain, struggle, and growth, but it was also a journey of redemption and light. The darkness that Nana had cast upon Zuri's life had been conquered by the light of truth and forgiveness. And as Zuri sat on the throne, a queen not just by blood, but by choice, the village knew that justice and mercy could coexist, and that destiny had a way of guiding the righteous home.